Hi YouTubers, my name is Kevin and you're watching The Royal We. In this brief message, I want to talk with you about the process of healing from toxic narcissistic abuse. Now, I want to share with you some personal insight as to why it takes so long and what you can expect during your healing process. Now, the healing process is different for everybody coming out of a toxic relationship. However, I know many of you or all of you have the same exact question right now, which is why does it seem like it's taking so long? When will it end? When will the anxiety stop? When will the stress stop? When will the panic attacks stop? All right. But in this message, I want to encourage you because even if you're going through these things, you are healing. And I want to encourage you to hang on. And I want to share with you the complexities of healing from toxic narcissistic abuse by breaking them down into two different components that you can understand. All right. Now, before we get into the two components that you have to understand about healing from toxic narcissistic abuse, I want you first to understand something, that it is not a race to see who can heal first from narcissistic abuse. There is no prize and no reward for you healing faster than anybody else. So if you're struggling right now because you're not healing according to how fast you should be healing according to your own standards, I want you to stop, pause for a minute, and I want you to repeat after me. Are you ready? I want you to say, I give myself permission to completely heal from toxic narcissism and narcissistic abuse, no matter how long it takes. Now, I want you to say that, repeat it to yourself, and hang on to that because this is super important. All right? Now, let's get into the two areas that you need to understand about healing from toxic abuse. This is why it's going to take a long time because your body is going through these complex things. But by the way, if you want me to expand on any one of these topics I'm going to talk about, be sure to leave me a comment down below and perhaps I'll be able to do a future video expanding more on the topic. Now, the first thing you need to understand is that your body coming out of a toxic, narcissistically abusive situation is going through biochemical changes. It's trying to find homeostasis again, yet it's not that simple, and I'm going to tell you why it's taking such a long time. When you're in a toxic environment, when you're in a relationship that is very abusive, there's something about the sudden narcissistically abusive outburst, the narcissistic rage, the name calling, the things being thrown, the aggressive tone in your face. And even if that's not there, let's talk about covert narcissism. Right? Even if there's just slight little demeaning jabs over time. No matter what the case is, it creates a very unstable atmosphere. And in this unstable atmosphere that you've been in throughout however many years you've been involved in the abuse, it has done something called triggering your fight or flight response. And again, it doesn't have to be a full-on aggression. It could just be the instability or atmospheric abuse, if you will, the gaslighting. Right? Creates an unstable situation. Your adrenaline is triggered because of a fight or flight response. Now, adrenaline is a great chemical in our body. And let me share with you a little bit about what it's for, right? Adrenaline serves its purpose if you are in a jungle and you're running from a wild animal and it's chasing you. Your adrenaline kicks in, you're able to get out of the situation, get back to the safety of a community, and then your adrenaline subdues and your fight or flight response subdues and your body starts to work to get into homeostasis, find its balance again right then and there within a few days, right? Now, when you're in a toxic situation with narcissistically abusive parents or siblings or a husband or a wife or whatever the case may be, there's no safe community to go to. Ultimately, however long you're in the relationship, you keep going back to it, so it's like you're running from that wild animal every day, day after day after day after month after year. This keeps you in that fight or flight response, and this keeps your adrenaline going on a daily basis. This results in what's called adrenal fatigue. And after a while, your body does not know when it's okay to shut off the adrenaline or the fight or flight response. This is why when you go no contact for the first time, you still may be experiencing fight or flight and anxiety and panic because your adrenaline is still getting triggered. It could be triggered by anything throughout the day because your fight or flight response has not yet turned off because it has not yet realized that it's safe. This may take a year or more. Now I'm going to give you some insight of some things to help your body go back into homeostasis. Number one, go no contact. Lose and ditch the contact with all the toxic, narcissistically abusive people you've been dealing with. Because every time you think about them, you're putting your body back into that fight or flight response. You're triggering that. All right? First and foremost. Number two, a way to deal with this is to deal with your diet and your health. One of the things that I did that really helped me. Well, first, let me share with you. I've always been kind of into diets and this and that. But one of the things I was into at the time coming out of narcissistic abuse was called intermittent fasting. How many of you have heard of that? Well, I wouldn't eat breakfast, basically. My first meal would be lunch, except I'd have some coffee in the morning. The problem with this is that what I realized is that it would cause my mind to just race and think. And typically, I would start to think about negative things, about past experiences with narcissistic abuse, which would trigger my adrenaline and my fight or flight response. So I started researching and looking at videos by Dr. Berg, and there's all kinds of other doctors on YouTube that can help you understand this stuff. And what I realized is that I require some protein in the morning. So I started having some turkey sausage or an egg, and suddenly, lo and behold, just by having this little bit of protein in the morning, it was able to calm my mind, stop the racing, which would stop triggering the fight or flight and the adrenaline. So there's just some helpful tips. But as I said earlier, this is going to take a long time, possibly a year or two, for it to work out all the kinks of the biochemistry that's going on. But these diet things can help. They really can. So I encourage you to look into that. Every little step helps. Okay? Now the second thing you need to understand, you have the biochemical response as your body's trying to find homeostasis. The other thing that you have to realize is that you are breaking and unlearning all the false narratives in your life. So you're going through an unlearning process about life in general. All the things that you were raised to believe, that you're not supposed to get a divorce. Even if they're abusive, you have to stay in it, right? You're unlearning this now, which is very difficult. It's not easy, unlearning everything you've been raised to believe. Or how about this one? You're supposed to be a part of your family no matter what. Family sticks together. It's all about blood. Hey, if they're calling you names and demeaning you, devaluing you, it doesn't matter. You're supposed to stay in the family. How about that? It's all false narratives. It's all false narratives that you have been learning. And as a result of learning these false narratives over life, throughout our life span, right? What it's done is it's created us in this form of like a caterpillar with our face in the dirt, following along the rules of the dirt of the earth, of the ground. Now, this is a very transformational phase coming out of narcissistic abuse, because what's happening is you're in this cocoon, and as you are breaking away and unlearning false narratives, it's like your cocoon is slowly breaking away, and you're breaking out of the cocoon in order to become a butterfly. And I'm not trying to sound cheesy for you, but this is the best way I can give you an example of what's taking place. The struggle physically is you coming out of this cocoon where you once had your face in the mud of all these false narratives. You're breaking out so you can fly over toxicity and the toxicity of the world, right? You're breaking free of all these false narratives. False narratives about having to be involved with toxic family members or a toxic spouse or toxic children. False narratives such as the world is inherently a good place and everybody is inherently good and loving. So go ahead and put your trust into everybody, right? These are all false narratives. As you're coming out of your cocoon, you're looking at the world in a whole new perspective. The world is not inherently good. People are all not inherently good. And you have to be on guard. You have to be cautious, and you have to fly above the toxicity of the world. So this is a process of you busting out of your cocoon. It's uncomfortable, and it can take a very long time because you are shedding away all of life's false narratives. It's a process, and it's grueling. So there you have, from my own personal experience, two very grueling tasks ahead of you, which is why it takes so long. You've got two fronts. You've got the physiological biochemical changes as your adrenaline and your fight or flight response is trying to find homeostasis, which can take a while. In addition to that, you're unlearning all the false narratives. You're going from a cocoon, a caterpillar, you're busting out into a butterfly. Give yourself permission for this process to take place. And I promise you, it's going to happen. The miracle will happen. I guarantee you, it will happen. If you start to focus on your daily journey, no contact, watch what you eat, find ways to help your body feel balanced. Be okay with shedding a lot of the old narratives, the false narratives. Dig deeper and learn new things and new truths. And with that, I want to be here and be a part of your healing journey. So visit www.jointheroyalwe.com where you can schedule your one-on-one time with me. We could have a telephone consultation, a FaceTime consultation. We could even do text message consultations if that's what you would like. Also, every Monday night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time is Royal We Live Chat. This is the whole community coming together to ask questions, answer questions. You could even call in for free, as long as you know that's a live show. And then finally, one of my most exciting ventures is Royal We Fellowship. This is every Saturday morning. That's tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock a.m. It's an in-depth Bible study from the perspective of understanding the world as being toxic and narcissistic. It's unlike any other Bible study you have been a part of. I guarantee you that. So join us every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. for Royal We Fellowship. And I'll be back with more videos right here on the Royal We.